She's the richest woman on earth. $120 billion. That's 12,000 stacks of $1 million. While millions of Walmart workers live paycheck to paycheck, Alice Walton buys $35 million paintings like it's pocket change. But here's the twist. This isn't just a rags to riches story. This is a tale of power, privilege, and a dark past buried under stacks of money. Because before she became the art queen of Arkansas, before she opened $1 billion museum in a town with no stoplights, before she launched a revolutionary medical school on land her daddy built Walmart from, she was the woman behind the wheel. 1989. Fayetteville, Arkansas. Alice Walton, age 39, hits a pedestrian. A woman. She dies. And Alice, she walks. No charges, no courtroom, just silence. And money. How? Why? The police say it was raining. The victim was crossing in the dark. But blood alcohol reports? Gone. Witness statements? Sealed. Charges? Never filed. The woman's name was Oleta Hardin. A 50-year-old cannery worker. She had a family. She had a life. Now she's a footnote in the biography of a billionaire. And that's just one of the crashes. Because Alice Walton has a rap sheet. You don't hear it in the museum tours. You don't see it in Forbes. But in 1998, she was convicted of drunk driving in Texas. In 2011, arrested again on her birthday. The charges disappeared, just like the first time. What kind of woman builds an empire on art, wellness, and legacy while her past trails like tire marks on wet pavement? Alice Louise Walton. Born October 7th, 1949. The only daughter of Sam Walton, Walmart's godfather. The little princess of Bentonville. But not your typical heiress. She didn't want the boardroom. She wanted the throttle. A licensed pilot, horse breeder, investment banker, maverick. That's what her daddy called her. More volatile than I am. But back to the billions. Because this isn't just about scandals. This is about how she became the undisputed queen of American retail wealth without ever running the company. And while she was busy crashing markets and sometimes cars, she was also buying. Buying everything. From Georgia O'Keeffe to Warhol, from Norman Rockwell to Rothko. The art world didn't even see her coming. But they sold. Oh, they sold. She was just getting started. Before the $120 billion throne, before the Crystal Bridges Museum rose like a cathedral in the Ozarks, Alice Walton built her own financial kingdom and then watched it burn. The year was 1988. Wall Street was still licking its wounds from Black Monday. But Alice, she launched Llama Company. Yes, Llama. Not exactly what you'd expect from a Walton. But she was different. Always had been. Llama was her shot at independence, an investment bank, headquartered in Fayetteville, Arkansas, of all places. She wasn't playing by New York rules. She wanted to bring big finance to her backyard. CEO, founder, queen of the hill. And at first, it worked. She sold bonds, brokered deals, and bankrolled one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in Arkansas history, the Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport. She put in $15 million of her own money, pushed through $79.5 million in bonds, and got the terminal named after her. Today, it still bears her name. Alice L. Walton Terminal. It even got her into the Aviation Hall of Fame. But by 1998, Llama Company was bleeding. The bond market cracked, and Alice's kingdom collapsed. She shuttered Llama. It was quiet. No screaming headlines. No Wall Street autopsies. Just gone. Most people would have vanished too. But Alice, she went underground. Billionaires don't break, they shift. While Llama was folding, Walmart was exploding. By 1998, Walmart was already raking in over $130 billion in revenue. And guess who held nearly 11% of it? Alice Walton, through family trusts. She never needed to sit on the board. Her wealth grew like wildfire, even while she faded from the spotlight, until she re-emerged, not as a banker, not as a businesswoman, but as something far more unexpected, an art goddess. With the financial world in ashes, Alice turned to her obsession, art. She'd bought her first piece at 10 years old, a Picasso print, and she never stopped. Soon she was snatching up legends. Norman Rockwell's Rosie the Riveter, $49 million. Asher Duran's Kindred Spirits, $35 million. That one stunned New York. The piece was considered a cultural jewel of the East. Alice ripped it out of Manhattan and planted it in Arkansas. But she didn't just hoard it for herself. She had a vision, a museum in the woods, free to the public, housing some of the greatest masterpieces in American history. People thought she was nuts. Why build an art museum in backwater Bentonville? Because Alice didn't care. She had money, she had power, and more importantly, she had a point to prove. Crystal Bridges opened in 2011, built on 120 acres of her family's land, designed by Moshe Safdie, free admission, billionaire taste with small-town hospitality. 13 million people have walked through those doors. Many had never seen an original painting before. She changed the American art landscape with a single stroke. But while the museum glittered, critics sharpened their knives. Because behind the Monet and the murals was a legacy built on exploitation. Walmart, $681 billion in revenue, but the average worker still making scraps. Reports of low wages, anti-union tactics, poor benefits, and Alice, she's never lifted a finger to fix it. Not on the board, not in the trenches. She lives in luxury. They live on food stamps. She was buying $30 million paintings. They were clocking overtime without healthcare. The contrast is blinding. And it's no accident. Texas, dust, heat, and raw land. That's where Alice Walton built her fortress. Not in a tower, in a kingdom of ranches. Fortune Bend, Rocking W, names that sound like myths, sprawling across the Texas plains like miniature countries. She didn't just own land, she ruled it. These weren't weekend escapes. They were fully operational empires. Horse breeding, elite training, world-class facilities. She wasn't riding ponies, she was crafting champions. In 2015, she sold one of them for $48 million and barely made a dent in her empire. Because that's what happens when your net worth is $120 billion. But it wasn't just about the ranches. Alice flies. Personally. A licensed pilot in full control. She didn't hire someone to take the stick. She climbed into the cockpit herself. Her Aviation Hall of Fame honor? Earned, not bought. She's flown over Arkansas, over Texas, across the nation. A billionaire alone in the sky. Because if there's one thing Alice never asked for, it's permission. Not from men, not from Wall Street, not from the family. Even her own father, Sam Walton, once admitted, she's more volatile than I am. That volatility? It's baked into her DNA. Divorced twice, no children, no heirs, no distractions. She doesn't play the smiling heiress. She's quiet, intense, fiercely private. But money? Money talks louder than silence. While Walmart employees stock shelves for minimum wage, Alice collects Georgia O'Keeffe originals, owns works by Rothko, Warhol, Hopper, pieces that hang in billion-dollar galleries elsewhere, sit in her museum free for all. And that's the paradox. She builds beauty for the people. While her fortune grows on the backs of the working class, art for the masses, wages for survival, her collection is legendary, her purchases jaw-dropping. And while critics slam Walmart for every labor violation in the book, Alice walks untouched because she's not on the board, she has no direct say, but she has the wallet, she has the name, she has the power. And when that power is challenged, she moves in silence. Like in 2004, she donated $2, $6 million to a conservative group. In 2012, $200K to Mitt Romney. In 2016, she flips $353K to Hillary. And by 2025, she co-hosts a fundraiser for Kamala Harris. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. She doesn't pick sides, she funds them. Because politics isn't about belief, it's about control. And Alice Walton, she controls more than most nations. But for all her ranches, all her art, all her silence, something broke her. A disease. One that doesn't care about money. It came for her bones. She had money, she had land, she had power. But in the quiet, her body betrayed her. It started small. Pain, stiffness, fatigue. Most would ignore it. Alice didn't, because this wasn't a cold or a sprain. This was an infection. In her bones, surgeries followed. Not one, not two, multiple. Reconstruction, rehabilitation. And behind closed doors, the richest woman in the world was fighting something she couldn't buy her way out of. Her health. And that's when everything changed. Because Alice Walton doesn't just suffer, she builds. Out of the wreckage of her own body came an idea, not another bank, not another museum, but a revolution, a medical school, not in New York, not in LA, in Bentonville, Arkansas, where it all began. She called it the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine. 2025, the doors opened. But this wasn't just another factory for doctors. This was something new, radical and controversial. Holistic medicine, integrated wellness, art, nature and science combined. They study anatomy without cadavers, virtual dissection, AI-powered scans. Some called it visionary, others called it madness. Critics screamed, "Where's the real training?" Medical purists scoffed, But Alice, she didn't flinch. She'd been through the system. She'd seen how it failed. She wanted healing that heals the whole person. And she wasn't done. This school wasn't just a vanity project. It was built on her trauma, her surgeries, her near collapse, and she put her fortune behind it. Land, endowments, technology. This is what power looks like when it's personal, when it hurts, when it bleeds, when it doesn't care what the establishment says. Time magazine named her to the Time 100 health list in 2025. She wasn't a doctor, she wasn't a nurse, but she was changing the game. Because here's what no one expected. The Walmart heiress, branded as reckless, volatile, even dangerous, had now become a health reformer. The same woman who once got behind the wheel drunk, now teaching compassion and healing. The same woman who walked free after a fatal crash, now demanding empathy in medicine. How do you reconcile that? Can a legacy be rewritten? Can a woman haunted by silence become the voice of a generation's future doctors? Maybe, but not without more controversy. Because the next chapter in her life would bring her face to face with the ghosts of Walmart and the fury of the workers who never forgot how her empire was built. Walmart. The name alone triggers something deep, a symbol of American capitalism or its collapse. Cheap goods, endless aisles, smiling faces in blue vests, and crushed dreams hiding behind every low price tag. Behind it all, Alice Walton. Not in the boardroom, not giving speeches, but holding the strings through 11% ownership. That's $120 billion in 2025. While full-time Walmart workers make $15 an hour if they're lucky. Let's do the math. Alice makes more in a single day from Walmart dividends than most employees earn in a lifetime. She buys Georgia O'Keeffe's like they're candy. They bag groceries for survival. The hypocrisy is brutal. The woman who gave away free art to the public won't lift a finger to raise the floor for the very people whose labor made her rich. She's not on the board. Doesn't matter. Her name is in the bloodline. She is Walmart. And Walmart is a machine. Anti-union crackdowns, wage suppression, shift manipulation, healthcare cutbacks, multiple lawsuits have exposed the rot, discrimination, retaliation, even wage theft. And yet, the Waltons? Untouchable. Their net worth has doubled in the last decade. Alice keeps collecting art. They keep collecting pink slips. And here's the kicker. In 2025, Walmart announces a record $681 billion in revenue. Bigger than most nations. Bigger than Amazon. But the workers? Still living paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, Alice throws another gala at Crystal Bridges. Another sculpture. Another curated wing. New indigenous acquisitions. More champagne. She calls it culture. Critics call it laundering. Because how do you create beauty while ignoring the pain that funds it? And yet Alice doesn't blink. She believes in legacy. She believes in vision. But does she believe in justice? She spent $1.5 billion in lifetime giving. That's huge. But compared to her total wealth, it's crumbs. A band-aid on a gunshot wound. She donates millions to rural health, to the arts, to food banks, but never to raising Walmart's floor. Never to the people whose backs built her family's kingdom. And that kingdom? It's not united. Because even the Walton clan has cracks. Money protects, money isolates, but it doesn't heal everything, especially not family. Alice Walton is the only daughter of Sam Walton, the godfather of Walmart. She was the princess, but never daddy's favorite, never the heir apparent. That title went to her brothers, Rob, Jim, John, all born for the company, boardroom trained, groomed, strategic. Alice? A wild card, a maverick, her father called her, more volatile than I am. And Sam Walton was no gentle soul. She didn't sit on the Walmart board, not once. She flew planes, built banks, bought paintings, started foundations. She was in the empire, but never of it. And then John died. 2005, a plane crash. He was 58, the most visionary of the Walton sons, a philanthropist, an environmentalist, the bridge between old money and the new future, gone, suddenly. The family reeled. The hierarchy shifted. Rob took chairmanship, Jim flexed his influence. And Alice? She retreated deeper into herself, into her art, into the hills of Bentonville, into silence. John's death left more than grief. It left a power vacuum and a spiritual wound. Because John understood Alice, he backed her museum. He supported her vision. And when he died, so did the one brother who truly saw her. The Waltons are a dynasty, but dynasties fracture. They keep a low profile, tight circles, few public appearances, and no one talks about the internal splits, the whispered disputes over giving, over politics, over control. Alice, divorced twice with no children, is the lone woman in a family of patriarchs, an art-obsessed recluse, a firebrand turned philanthropist, and she's not playing the family game. She's rewriting her own script, through crystal bridges, through her school of medicine, through private projects with public impact. But there's something else about Alice Walton. She doesn't trust institutions, not really. Her bank failed, her political bets shift every decade. Even her art collecting has drawn fierce attacks from coastal elites. But she keeps going, building, stacking, creating, because she knows what it means to lose control, and she's not losing again. Blink and you'll miss it. A small town in the hills of northwest Arkansas, Bentonville. Population? Just over 55,000. It's where Sam Walton opened the first Walmart, and it's where Alice Walton is building a new world. Forget New York, forget LA. This isn't Silicon Valley or Wall Street, this is Alice's Valley. Once a sleepy southern town, now a billionaire's laboratory. Because Alice isn't just collecting art anymore, she's engineering culture, rewriting geography. Crystal Bridges was just the beginning. A free museum in the woods? Unheard of. But now, it's a magnet. 13 million visitors and counting. Families, scholars, collectors, curators, pilgrims of modern Americana. And Alice? She's expanding it. New wings, new indigenous art collections, more land, more vision, more control. And this isn't just about paintings, it's about power. Because with culture comes influence, and Alice is making Bentonville the center of a quiet revolution. Tech firms are moving in. Urban designers are calling it the next Aspen. Cycling trails, curated cuisine, boutique hotels, the works. But not everyone's clapping. Locals say rents are skyrocketing, long-time residents getting pushed out. The soul of the town? Being bought, rebranded, replaced. This isn't organic growth, this is billionaire colonization. Critics call it Aliceville, a town sculpted by one woman's taste, mood, and bank account. A corporate Disneyland in pastoral disguise. She's laying trails, but they lead to her museum. She's funding health, but through her institute. She's building a town, but in her own image. And still, it's stunning. Bentonville is now a cultural force. Tourism exploded, art schools flourished, economies grew. But the question hangs, can you engineer authenticity? Can you buy a soul for a town, or is this the gilded trap of modern philanthropy? Because what Alice gives, she also defines. You enter her world on her terms. Even her medical school, planted next to crystal bridges, blends health with aesthetics. Students learn anatomy next to abstract art. They treat illness with mindfulness and oils, alongside medicine. It's radical, it's visionary, and it's hers. In the town where Walmart was born, now there's a different kind of kingdom. Not aisles, but galleries. Not greeters, but curators. Not rollbacks, but Rothkos. Alice Walton turned Bentonville into her canvas. And she's not done painting. She doesn't tweet, she doesn't lecture, she doesn't chase the spotlight. But behind the scenes, Alice Walton is moving mountains. Through a quiet weapon more powerful than any corporation, her private foundation. Founded in 2017, the Alice L. Walton Foundation is no charity sideshow. It's a surgical tool, designed to reshape America her way. Arts, education, health, economic mobility. She doesn't spray money, she aims it. $3 million to University of Central Arkansas for arts programs, 1. $28 million to UAMS for food research, 5 million to a food bank in Arkansas. And those are just the surface numbers. In 2023, her Art Bridges initiative dropped $40 million in grants to loan artwork from her collection to underfunded museums. Small-town galleries suddenly got access to Warhols, Rockwells, and O'Keeffes. She's redistributing culture, like oxygen. While other billionaires rocket to Mars or build bunkers, Alice Walton is giving away masterpieces, but on her terms. Even her philanthropy is curated. And then there's health. The Heartland Whole Health Institute, now folded into the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine, is her most personal bet yet. It's not just about curing disease, it's about transforming how Americans live. Eastern and Western medicine, yoga and MRIs, art therapy and surgical precision. It's a collision of science and soul. To critics, it's fluff, a billionaire's wellness fantasy. To believers, it's the future. But make no mistake, Alice isn't donating. She's investing in legacy, in reshaping systems. In building something no Walton has ever built before. Immortality, not in body, in impact. She doesn't want a statue. She wants institutions that last centuries. And here's the kicker. She's done all this while carrying the weight of a dark past. The crashes, the convictions, the whispers. She doesn't deny them. She buries them beneath layers of strategy, glass, and stone. Because Alice Walton knows something most billionaires don't. You don't have to run the world. You just have to own the ground it stands on. And now, she's laying the final bricks. Bentonville isn't just a town. It's a living will, a signature, a final brushstroke. And with no children, no heirs, she's not passing this down. She's leaving it behind. August 2025, it's official. Alice Walton is now the richest woman in the world, $120 billion. That's more than Françoise Bettencourt-Myers. More than Oprah, Kylie, and the Queen of Dubai combined. She's number 15 globally, above kings, above tech titans, above empires. But this isn't about a number, it's about how she got there. Because Alice didn't start a company, she didn't invent an app, she didn't even run Walmart. She simply held on to trust shares, to bloodline, to silence. While Walmart grew into a $681 billion beast, she quietly collected dividends, stacked investments, built foundations, all while the press painted her as the quiet art heiress, the eccentric, the recluse. But Alice is a machine, a strategist. She watched as Amazon, Tesla, Meta all burned billions, while Walmart thrived in recession, groceries, necessities, survival retail. And Alice? She didn't chase trends. She bet on the one thing America can't live without: low prices. Now at 75, she's not slowing down. She's expanding crystal bridges, funding health revolutions, dominating cultural conversations from the shadows. And yet, the ghosts are louder than ever. The 1989 pedestrian death, no charges. The 1998 DWI conviction. The 2011 arrest. The whispers of injustice, privilege, silence bought with gold. You won't find her talking about it. No memoir, no confession, just museums and donations and glossy press releases. The past doesn't haunt Alice, it builds her. Every crash, every scandal, every critic, another brick in her fortress. And her final move? Control the future. She's turning medicine into a holistic vision. She's redefining art ownership in rural America. She's transforming a Walmart hometown into an international cultural engine. And she's doing it all while workers still protest low wages. While critics still call crystal bridges a billion-dollar distraction. While some say the School of Medicine is a vanity project with AI skeletons instead of real flesh. But Alice doesn't blink, because she's not here to be liked. She's here to last. She walks without heirs. No sons, no daughters, no dynasty waiting to inherit the throne. At 75, Alice Walton stands alone. At the top, the richest woman in the world, the queen of a kingdom she never ruled but always owned. What will she leave behind? A museum in the woods, housing America's greatest treasures. A school teaching future doctors to heal with both data and compassion. A foundation funneling billions into food, art, and wellness. A town reborn under her vision. And yet, a trail of wreckage clings to her name like smoke to a fire. Olayta Hardin, 50 years old, killed in 1989. No justice, no trial, just gone. 2 DWIs, 1 conviction, 1 birthday arrest, 1 life that ended under her car's wheels. And still, she rose. While Walmart workers begged for living wages, she bought kindred spirits for $35 million. While families rationed gas, she flew private, solo across Texas skies. While a nation debated access to healthcare, she launched a medical school without cadavers, guarded by digital scans and curated ideals. Is it reinvention or rebranding, atonement or distraction? She built temples to beauty, but atop a fortune rooted in labor exploitation, union suppression, and poverty-level paychecks. Can a gallery cleanse a grave? Can art make up for absence? Can a billionaire's charity outweigh the damage of her silence? That's the paradox of Alice Walton. One of the most powerful women in history, one of the most secretive, one of the most polarizing. She didn't give interviews, she gave visions, she didn't respond to accusations. She built institutions. She was called volatile, she was called reckless, she was called brilliant. But one thing no one can deny, she changed the map. Not with votes, not with speeches, with money, relentless, silent, unstoppable money. And in the end, her legacy won't be a bank or a brand, it'll be a question. Did Alice Walton build a better world? Or did she just build a better mask?